everybody, and welcome to episode 85 of the I Rock Knits podcast. My name is Corey Eichelberger, and I think I have some new folks who have come over here after finding me on Vlogmas. So yes, I am doing Vlogmas, and if you are unaware, that is a kind of a promotion themed item that YouTube kind of started, where people post little snippets of their day each and every day in the month of December. So you can go out and find lots of different content, and I decided to participate. I really feel like I have conversations behind the scenes with some of you a lot. I get a lot of emails and DMs, and so this was kind of my way of speaking back to all of you. Mine are running anywhere from 10 to 30 minutes a day, not quite 30 minutes because that's too much to edit every day. I am wearing a really fluffy, oversized Christmas sweater today, but wait until you see the front of it. Oh, that should be the screenshot for the front of the podcast. Isn't that crazy? But I thought I would put it on. It's really cozy. It's kind of like fleecy boucle. So I got sparkly snowflakes today. So each and every day I am putting out a Vlogmas, and you can go over and find them on my YouTube channel. They're all there for free, and you can join me there if you choose. You can watch several days. So far it's going okay. I was really worried about having enough content. Like, what do you post every day? But that's kind of the point, is that you're just supposed to be producing what goes on throughout your day. And I did make a little caveat day 2 or 3 that you are only seeing 15 minutes of my day, and mostly the good parts. It can make it look very idyllic and easy, and it's not always easy. It's not always idyllic. But I'm really excited about today's podcast. I have a new collection coming out this week, and I'm going to share that with you today. I have lots more content than I thought I would have, and so this will go up, and that new pattern collection should be live, and I'm really excited to finally have it done. It's the one I've been talking about forever. So let's get started. I have 2 audiobooks this week. I have still been managing to listen while I work or while I drive. The first one is called In Need of a Good Wife. This is recently recommended by one of you, and I put it in my Libby, and it came up right away as available, and so I thought, well, that means it should be next. This was a sweeping historical 19th century America about a group of unforgettable women who seek to remake their destinies. So it is the story of women traveling from New York City and going out to the Central Plains to become wives. They are literally, their passage is paid for by the men who want them to come, and they are assigned a man. They've corresponded with a man back and forth, and then a woman is kind of brokering the whole deal, and she takes them all out there, and it's the trials and tribulations of what happens. I really enjoyed it. The premise is Clara Bixby is abandoned by her husband and fired from her job, and she has nowhere to turn. The Civil War has ended. Life remains uncertain, especially for single women. But when she reads about Destination, Nebraska, a town populated entirely by bachelors, Clara sees a golden business opportunity. She contacts the mayor with a solution, and she will match single women in New York City with homesteading bachelors and bring their brides by rail across the wild frontier. It was a 10-hour audiobook. I found it very interesting, very easy to listen to, so I would highly recommend. So thanks to the person who recommended it to me. And then the second book I read in the last 2 weeks was What's Mine and Yours by Naima. And this one was a little harder to listen to. There were multiple stories and multiple characters that you followed, so they switched back and forth. It wasn't not well done, but you have to pay close attention when they're doing that, especially at first till you get the characters down. A community in the Piedmont of North Carolina rises in outrage as a county initiative draws students from the largely black east side of town into predominantly white schools on the west. For two students, G and Noelle, the integration sets off a chain of events that will tie their two families together in unexpected ways over the span of the next 20 years. That part of the book does not happen until way into the book. This is not entirely a book about integrating schools and changing district lines. This is a story about people, people of color, and the lives that they're leading and how they get to different points along their path. Very interesting, really well done. I believe it won a couple of awards. It is a 12-hour book. And this is the from the author of Halsey Street. So I think some of you may recognize that book as well. So 2 books this week that I highly recommend. I have a really interesting recipe of the week this week. These are sweet potato stacks, and they're by Half Baked Harvest. I follow her on Instagram, and she posts delicious recipes every day. She has several cookbooks, so you might want to go over there if you'd like to follow people who post good food. But this is a way to make potatoes, and it came out kind of around Thanksgiving. But you take medium sweet potatoes and you cut them really thin. And then you put them in a bowl and you cover them with butter, garlic, thyme, oregano, Parmesan cheese, manchego cheese, and salt and pepper. So you kind of cover them. And then this is the cool part. You take like a cupcake tin and you stack those potatoes in the little round muffin tin area, and then you bake them. So, and you could stick a toothpick through the top so that they come out kind of buttery and crispy and stacked up. And you could do this technique for any potatoes and would be super quick, right? Peel potato, slice it, cover it in anything you like. So I would think you could cover it in chili powder or taco seasoning, right? Like you could use any type of spice and then stack them, and really good. I love sweet potatoes. My husband is not such a fan, but I just thought this was a really interesting way to make a new kind of potato. I use a mandolin, so it went super fast, right? Just slice. And I did a sweet potato, 2 little cups for me, and a whole white potato for him. And I used the same spices and everything. So I'll post both the audiobooks and the recipes in my Ravelry group, I Rock Knits. And then you just go down and it's labeled and they're at the top of the thread, audiobooks, and all of them are listed. And then you just click on the thread and go in and you can copy and paste or download the recipe. Although you could find this one out on the internet and just print it yourself. I'm going to bump up the order this week a little bit and show you some things I found on the internet, because I have some really cute things to show you. I'm searching for that. The first thing I saw on Instagram was by Amy Munson, who is a knitwear designer, and she has the cutest little elves and gnomes and things to knit. They're just small. You could knit them up before the holidays. She has a Father Christmas and a bunch of little trees, which is just darling. And then she also has these little gnomes with little beards and hats and pom-poms that you put over a cork, but you could use just any little tube or item to fill. You could stuff them. I just thought they're so whimsical and so cute. I don't knit a lot of that little tiny stuff, but they work up so quickly. I mean, I would think you could do these in, an evening or an afternoon. So I just thought, wow, I have to share that with everyone. And then the next thing I have to share is a cowl that someone knit out of Fab Funky Fibers. And if you have never been to the Fab Funky Fibers website, and go to their Instagram feed, even if you don't like to follow yarn dyers because you get tempted by their yarn if it comes up in your feed. I'm going to scroll through. Look at this Instagram feed. They have curated the most amazing feed, where you put your 4 pictures up and then they match up on the front of your feed. It's stunning. It is not showing up here. So stop right now, get your phone out, and go look at Fab Funky Fibers because their feed is exquisite. But I follow someone called AC Techniques, and she had a blog post on making this cowl, and it looks like so much fun to knit. So it's called the Quadra Cowl. It's by Strickmick, who is Martina Bim, or Bame, as my friend Josh used to say, because he's German and he knew how to pronounce these better than I did. Martina Bame, I think that's how he always said it. But the cowl is just stunning, and the way that it's put together, where you start working out from the center in the round, and then you get this big square, and then you pull the two ends together, and then you keep going in the round. Oh, talk about a cool design and an interesting way to make a cowl. I cannot wait to try this. I'm going to dig out some self-striping sock yarn, and I might even buy some Fab Funky Fibers because this is stunning. But after the first of the year, I'm going to try making that Quadra cowl because I think it's just fantastic. I have a couple of tips for you this week. The first one is a new website I found that has been sending me some emails, and it's called The Knitting Circle, and it is your go-to online resource for knitting instruction, ideas, and information. It's a community where passionate knitters can come together to express their creativity and find joy in their stitches. At the Knitting Circle, we know that knitting is so much more than a hobby for you. It's a lifestyle. We want to be your favorite place to feed that passion by learning new techniques, getting inspiration for new ideas, and connecting with other knitters who feel the same way as you. And it's at theknittingcircle.com, and they have a ton of videos, instructional videos. So if you are teaching people how to knit or you're new to knitting, it might be a site that you want to take a look at. And then they also have patterns. It's a full-fledged, all-in website. There is a subscription fee at $6 a month, so fairly reasonable, but also discounted to $49 for the year. So you get, a couple of months free if you want to do it that way. I thought it was really well done. The website looks amazing, lots of instruction. So I thought I should share that with everyone. And then I'm going to insert a little video from Vlogmas this week because I know a lot of you are not going to sit down and watch 15 minutes of my life every day. But I had a good tip this week about where you sit and knit. So I'm going to include that here. So here's a tip or trick for knitters or crocheters. You put down a long beach towel or blanket on the seat of your chair so that when you're knitting, these do not get lost by running down inside of the chair. You can just pop anything out, maybe a few crumbs from the cookie you were eating, but stitch markers, cable needles, chibi needles, nothing will get lost. I just find that since I have started sitting on my blanket instead of having my blanket on my lap, it is so nice to, when I drop things, I don't worry about it. Sometimes I don't even notice that I drop a cookie crumb, right? But I can just fold that up, lay it out, find all my little gadgets and things. So I thought I should share. Beach towel would work. And even if you're on a sofa and you just have kind of a crack along the cushions on one side, you could put a towel there and sit on part of it. It has changed my knitting chair. I just tell you, because of my new thumbs, I drop things still. They're strong, they feel good, I don't have pain, but I still drop things more often than I did before. I have one last tip for you today, and that is some children's books. So I ordered some books for donation, and when I was out looking, I found these. So this is the Magic Ball of Wool, and it is by Susanna Eisern and Nora Hilb, and it is just a darling story with just the best little descriptions. Not too much text on each page, but a little bit, so not a picture book. One morning, a hedgehog wakes up to find a mysterious ball of wool caught in his prickles. Fascinated, all of the forest animals come to his house, and the hedgehog happily knits something for each of his visitors. When the hedgehog stops knitting, he realizes something amazing. The ball of wool is magic. So isn't that cute? So I got that one. And then I found these two, Lulu and Lainey, a Christmas yarn and a French yarn by Lois Petrin. And I'll show you just a little bit of the interior. So a little less text on each page. It's the week before Christmas, and Lulu wants to knit a special scarf for her best friend with her favorite yarn. While visiting her grandmother, the ball of yarn gets lost, and with all the excitement of holiday preparations, it is forgotten until Christmas Eve, when it reappears with very surprising results. So that's Lulu and Lainey. And then the French one, a French yarn, is Lulu loved to knit. So begins the charming tale of a little French girl and her favorite ball of yarn. In a flurry of activity after a soccer game, the beloved ball of yarn is lost, or so we think. A heartwarming adventure ensues involving a most unlikely cast of characters. So just thought I would share those before I wrap them up for Christmas. I have a third little tip today, and that is this little container. This is a butter keeper. I don't know how many of you cook with stick butter. I do fairly often. I like to use butter in my recipes, and I will take it out and cut it off and then put it in a baggie because I haven't used the whole thing, or kind of fold the end up and stick it back in the refrigerator, which is my husband's worst thing. Anything that could possibly be opened in the refrigerator is going to mold by tomorrow. And so I found this little plastic butter keeper. And when the kids were over at Thanksgiving, they both were like, that's brilliant. You can just stick your, few tablespoons that you have left in that. And so I bought a bunch, and I'm sending one to each of my brothers because we like to do kind of gag gifts at Christmas time. That one year I sent them those little bowl holders for in your microwave, and my brother went out and bought one for every member of his family because they heat up food all the time and you can't ever touch that hot bowl. And so I'm going to send one of these to each of them. I thought it would be kind of funny. They'd be like, what is and I'll put a little note in there. So I got it on Amazon. They were just a few dollars, and I thought, oh, I should share that as well. And I just want to tell a little tale of what happened to us yesterday. So we are buying Stevie and Kylie a TV for Christmas. Their TV broke, and they have been without one for a while. They can't afford cable, and so they stream most of their stuff, but their screen went green, and now their TV doesn't turn on all the time. It has an intermittent power on feature. So they have to try it, and sometimes it won't turn on at all. And so they have just been living without, and Ross and I decided that they could get one big gift this year, and they could, pick out a TV. And Stevie has a membership through his family at Costco, and so we met them at Costco last night. And when we walked in, we got the big cart, and we don't have a Costco membership, and it's, Saturday at 5 o'clock. The place was busy and packed. And Stevie said, I measured our current TV, and it's 42 inches. And I said, okay, great planning. So we know they have this piece of furniture that we bought Kylie when she moved into her own apartment a couple of years ago, and that's what she set her smaller TV on. And it is kind of like a wine rack on one side, and it has like a space for some CDs on one side and 2 drawers underneath. And it's tall and it's narrow, and it fit on this wall in her apartment perfectly. But now they're in a house, and they have a little front room. They're in a house from the early 1900s in St. Paul, where homes are all old and beautiful, but they sit it at an angle, and it sticks out a little bit, this piece of furniture. So Kylie and I said, you're going to have to pick something that's going to fit in their space. And we start looking, and the first one that the guys look at is the 55-inch TV, which is too big, right? It's 13 inches bigger than what they have now, and the one that they have now just fits, and the table sticks out. So Kylie says, Mom, let's go look. Let's go shop. I don't want to be a part of this. And I said, you don't want to pick your TV? No, as long as it works, I'm fine, she says. There were just a few that were on sale up front. They were all, in that kind of same price range of $400 to $500 or whatever. And so she said they can choose it, and we'll go look at the other things that we want to get. So we walked off. Big mistake. But we found the things we needed. I wanted to get Ross needed some Christmas cards to send to people at work, and they have that gift card promotion at Costco where you can buy gift cards for gifts for people. So we went and did that, and then we met back up with the guys at the checkout, and they have a 55-inch TV on the cart. And I immediately blurt out, you got the 55-inch. Well, it's not really 55 inches. That's not the, and I was like, that is not gonna work. No, Corey, we talked about it, we measured, we looked at it, we figured it out, it's gonna work. Well, number one, some men folk don't always listen to women folk about things that they think they know better about. That's a generalization, but in my experience, with a few hard-headed men in my immediate family, they don't always listen. And so we're checking out, and Ross is buying all of the things, and we say to them, do you think you can get it in the car by yourself? Because Kylie has a little truck and little SUV, and she says yes, and Stevie says, I'm not sure. And Kylie says, it will fit. Spatially, I have better understanding than Stevie does. And so we said, okay, fine. And then we were going to go and grab some pizza with them. And so we get there, and I said, it fit. And Stevie says, yeah, I just really didn't think it would. And Kylie said it slid right in. It was just fine. But she was shaking her head. So we get home, and an hour and a half later, I get a call from my daughter. And she says, guess what? And I said, it doesn't fit. And she said, nope, it doesn't fit. The legs of the stand are too wide for the top of her little piece of furniture. Like, they can't even get both legs on the top of it because the legs are so far apart. And she's mad. And she doesn't want to yell at Stevie. And so she said, I just need to vent because I don't want to deal with this. And I have taken 2 hours out of my day to do this thing, and I'm behind on pattern work, right? I'm waiting on patterns to come back to me. I'm uploading them. I'm making, and I said, Kylie, on Tuesday, I can help you with this, but tonight I can't. Well, I don't know what to do. So I took the phone into the bedroom and said, Ross, you got to talk to them. And so he said the same thing I said. You're going to have to buy a piece of wood that's 2 inches bigger than the top of your thing. But when you have a tall item and you put something heavy on top, it's tall. It's not a low TV stand. It's going to be unstable. And she doesn't want to put a piece of plywood in her new living room where she has old, used, but matching furniture. And she doesn't want to go to Home Depot and have one cut. And Stevie works all day on Sunday, and she doesn't want to deal with it. And so I stayed up late, and then at the end of the night, she called me back. And she's like, Mom, I'm just so frustrated. And I was like, Kylie, I cannot deal with this right now. Like, I am in the middle of editing some patterns and double checking things, and she's like, I know, but I just don't know what to do. All the levels of frustration. And then late last night, I get a text from Stevie that says, hey, I found a mounting solution, and I'm going to order it on Amazon, and then if that doesn't work, we will figure something out. And they're young, and they gotta figure things out for themselves. We tried. I don't know what the solution is going to bring, but it was just really a bummer of a night. I was really frustrated for her. She was frustrated. We both had verbalized clearly that we did not think that it was the right size. So Anyway, it's a small thing. It can be fixed in multiple ways. She could buy a new TV stand. But she's like, Mom, I don't have another $100 or whatever. I don't have time. It's finals. I just wanted to get the TV plugged in. She's in finals and Stevie starts finals in a week. And they could get a board, or they could move their coffee table over. And she said, but we use our coffee table all the time. So I said, you can move your kitchen table. She didn't find it funny. So anyway, children, right? They always still call mama, which kind of warms your heart a little. Okay, let's do the patterns of the week this week. I have a finished sweater here. This one was on the needles, and then it was finished by a sample knitter, and then I got it back and it was too big for me and too long. And then Kylie stopped over 2 weeks ago and tried it on, and then I had ripped off the bottom because I thought if it were shorter, maybe it wouldn't look quite so oversized on me. I'm just so short, and it had this high-low hem on it. And so I had ripped that off, cut it and ripped that off, and then I was going to put this new little bottom on it, this little ribbing. And she tried it on, and it looked darling on her. She's more well-endowed, more buxom, in even her mama. And so I said, how much longer do you want it? And she goes, I don't think I want it any longer. She's taller than her mama, too. And so it just, the whole shape of it fit her better, and I was like, great. So then I just did a few rows of the ribbing and bound off. It doesn't have the high-low back anymore because she said she didn't want it. But this is called the Fjola, Fjola, Fjola sweater by Agusta, Thora, Jonsdottir, who I assume that sounds like a Icelandic or Scandinavian country, and Fjola, the fjord. So I'm wondering if you would say it Fjola. And so anyone who knows can chime in and let me know how you pronounce that. It's got some V-shaped, chevron-shaped stitch pattern around the yoke, and then it was meant to be striped like this. And the reason that I decided to try to make it was because I had this leftover remix yarn in the weight when I was out looking for what I could do in stripes for an actual striped sweater. I found this, and now it looks a little Italian flag, but it was really cute on her. So I thought, well, I'll share that here. Maybe some of you have leftovers or want to use some striping. So the sweater calls for Aran weight yarn, 17 stitches and 24 rows over 4 inches. So that's really, that's kind of right in that worsted, just, less than worsted category. It calls for US size 7 needle and 15 to 1900 yards. It's meant to be kind of an oversized tunic sweatshirt. It comes in size small, medium, large, and extra large. The pattern was only $3. And the note on here, now that I'm reading it, says, the yarn is available in many stores in Iceland. And she used Gusta Knitting Mosul Mjökull yarn. So that will all be linked in the show notes. So if you're interested in this particular sweater. And then I thought I would just talk briefly because I've been sharing a coupon code on my Instagram. If you are getting Advent minis, or you purchased one of those Advent kits and you don't know what to make with your minis, I have 3 suggestions for you, and they are all on sale. So there's a coupon code on my Instagram feed. And I also sent out a newsletter with the code. But I have 3 patterns that will work well for minis or scraps. So this one is my 12 Days of Knitting Cowl. This came out as a collaboration with Leading Men Fiber Arts, where you bought a mini skeins kit from them. It is a sampler, so each section can be worked once or twice, and so you use each of those throughout. So you get, you get all the different samples of lace patterns all the way down. And you don't have to make each section this wide. You can make it, half this if you want. So you could make a shorter cowl, and you can graft it together when you're done. It's all worked in the round. You can graft it together when you're done, or leave the ends open and wear it like a scarf. And you could do as many colors as you want. So that's the first one. The second one is my Very Merry Mix-Up from last year, which used mini skeins from Toad Hollow yarn, as well as I did a sample in Knit Picks minis. And then the third one is my Phases shawl, which has 3 large sections that you can just stripe in any order that you want. And it's the one that has the openings for you to stick your arms through, but it can be worn as a scarf around your neck or as a shawl around your shoulders. So that is all on sale. You can buy all 3 patterns for just $8 using code ADVENT3 if you put all 3 of them. And I have a bundle in my designs. So if you go to Corey, I Rock Knits, and then you go to all my designs, there's a bundle at the top, and you can just find the 3 patterns really easily that way. Or you can just get the patterns for $4 using the code ADVENT. So if you just want one of them, you would only purchase it for $4. And I have people ask me all the time what to do with Advent minis, what to do with their scraps. That is a question I get more often than not. So I thought, well, I'm just going to share these patterns one more time and just let you know. 12 Days of Knitting, Very Merry Mix-Up, Phases shawl, and they're all on sale through the end of the month. So excited to share it with you. It's really been a labor of love. I decided to ask Diana Suburban Stitcher if I could design a sock with her DK tweed. She had a glorious DK tweed colorway come out, and it's called It's Electric. It was an orange, which I love, and this was early last spring. And she said, absolutely. So she sent me 2 skeins, and I started designing this sock. And then I had leftovers, and I thought, well, I could make a hat and a cowl to match. And so I did. And then I thought, I love all her DK tweed colorways. So let's make a collection. Let's do 4 DK weight socks. Other people do collections, and I'd never done one. So I thought, well, I'll just do 4 DK socks. And as I was writing the patterns, I thought to myself, it will be so easy. It would be so easy, Corey, to just take the stitch patterns from the DK socks and also write it up as a fingering weight sock, or just give people a little recipe that gives them idea of how to take that stitch pattern. If you're an experienced sock knitter, you know how to throw a stitch pattern on your favorite sock recipe. But then you get into it and you're like, actually, no, you need to size all the DK weight socks, and then you need to size all the fingering weight socks. And it became a huge project, and I got sick. And so this collection was supposed to come out in September for Socktober. I thought I would have all the patterns done. It would be no problem. And there was no way that they would have gotten done, I don't think, even if I hadn't gotten sick. And then I was sick for weeks. And so it just got pushed back, and I contacted all the people that I had wanted to collaborate with, and they said, no problem, right? They're just knitting patterns. And so then Diane sold her house and had to move out immediately and had to move in with their parents, and is dying out of their garage on a much smaller scale. And so I'm still frantically trying to get this sock collection done, and we just decided to push it into December because they're building a house and they were going to get in November. Of course that was delayed a little bit. So things have just, the whole process of this has been stressful and overwhelming for me. I wanted to do a good job, and even when I started back working on this stuff, when I started to feel slightly better, my head wasn't in it. I wasn't doing a good job of checking numbers and checking things, but I had this need, this pressure that you have to get this done, you have to get this out. So the process for my testers wasn't a pleasant and happy one, especially the early testers, and I owe them all a giant Christmas present. But it's done. We're uploading the photos into the patterns right now, and I don't do that piece. My tech editor does that. She lays out my patterns in columns and formats. I always have a quote and then the pattern notes on my pattern, and they're checklist patterns. So she has to go in and make the little check boxes, which aren't in the pattern. Like, I just put 3 boxes and put a note that says, Jean, place the boxes here. And so the formatting of my patterns takes, a couple of hours for each one. So I'm still waiting for the last 2, well, we're not going to put that in there, Corey. So it has just been a labor of, love trying to get this whole thing done. I'm super happy with the way it turned out. I am running a big sale. You can buy just the 4 DK weight socks in an ebook. You can buy just the 4 fingering weight socks in the ebook, and then you can buy all 10 patterns in an ebook, and those all will be discounted. And so this is the original first sock. It is called the Anjou Pear sock, and this is the Pears of Socks Collection. I was looking for a theme and trying to come up with something that would coordinate all these socks together, and it was really hard to come up with something. They're all easy texture, memorizable patterns, and I just wanted something fun and clever, and I laid them out on the kitchen table one night in September, and the kids were here, and Stevie said, "What are you trying to do?" And he's new to the family, doesn't necessarily understand this whole thing. And I said, well, I made 10 patterns, 8 of them are pairs of socks. And then he said, could you go with pears? And I was like, oh my gosh, when you see the 4 colorways that we did it in, the pear thing, it just worked out perfectly. And now we have December and a partridge in a pear tree. So I think it was meant to be. Each sock is embellished, optionally, with little pearl beads, pearl buttons, pins, or charms. You do not have to put them on your socks, but I wanted a reference for why the socks were named for pears. It's just a knit slip, and then kind of a ribbed sock all the way up. So it's purl 3, knit 3, and just a 4-row repeat. It's super simple. You purl 3, knit 3, and then go round. And I used a modified Dutch heel on all these socks. It is a sock heel that fits a lot of people, not everyone well. Like if you have a really high arch, some of you need shaping here, or you like a different kind of a heel, you can put your own heel on any of these socks. I knit them all cuff down, but I had testers knit them toe up in the opposite direction. And if you're a toe up sock knitter, you kind of know how to get your toe going, and then you just start the stitch pattern. And it is a checklist pattern, so the patterns are longer than they normally would be, so that for newer knitters and people who are just learning how to knit socks, because I had one tester who had never knit a pair of socks. And so she checked off each repeat all the way down so that she could really keep track of all of her rounds and how long it was going to be and that sort of thing. So if you don't want to print out the whole pattern, you can always just kind of print out page 2. The front page would have the picture and the gauge and the yardage. And then page 2 usually has the stitch pattern, and how many to cast on, and then that's kind of all you need until maybe you get to the toe, and you can put, this is a wedge toe, I put a wedge toe on all the socks. So I'm going to show the DK weight socks first, and then I'll show all the fingering weight socks quickly at the end. But for this first sock, I have a matching hat with little pearl beads just hanging on there. Just stitched them on. But again, optional, a coordinating cowl. So it's the stitch pattern on a cowl, and this comes in 2 sizes, the short size or a longer size if you want it to be longer, and you could make it narrower, you could wrap it twice, so lots of options with that. So the hat and the cowl pattern are offered as separate patterns as well, but if you want all the patterns, they are included in the 10 pattern Pairs of Socks ebook. So you can get all 10 patterns at once. I had always wanted to put my Friendship Road stitch from my sweater and my hat pattern. So there is a coordinating hat and a sweater with these socks if you want to go all in. And this is just a little pear pin that I stuck on there. And these turned out really fun. They're just, the stitch pattern is just moving the stitch over one stitch all the way down, and then it goes in the opposite direction on the other sock. But you could feel free to make both your socks turn the same way. Wouldn't bother me at all if they both wrapped, you know, to the right. This is the DK tweed in the Rouge colorway, and it completely matches, you know, a pear color. It was just ironic how well that matched a red pear. And then this one is called the Concorde sock, and we have the Concorde, the sky, for the pears, and this has the bead placement. So you're putting the bead on the cuff, so they're not sewn on, they're done as you go, just like in the Christina hat. And this texture pattern is just really fun. They're just squishy and comfy and cozy if you're looking for a sock pattern to knit up really quickly. DK is just, you know, you have fewer stitches on the needles. Most of mine are the 48 stitch circumference on a DK sock, fits my foot fine, and you can just see how textured and fun that is. And this one was probably the most fun to knit. This little texture stitch was really fun. So you've got a pearl, and then you've got just these little diagonal lines running, and then I found these little sparkly pear-shaped at Michael's, and so I thought, oh, those are really fun. And these are the Bosc pear socks in the DK weight. That golden color, isn't that just perfect for pears? Just a right pear. One of the quotes on my patterns is, there is about a 10-minute window for when you can eat a pear. When it's perfectly ripe, right? It either is not there yet or too far gone. And so someone had quoted that, and I put that on one of the patterns. So let's just run through the fingering weight socks real quickly, because they have a different look, and I did not use Suburban Stitcher. She does not have a tweed in the fingering weight in her shop at this time. I found some smaller indie dyers that had tweed fingering weight, and I thought I would promote some people who are doing good colorways. So this is the fingering weight sock Anjou Pear, so the first sock in that, you know, colorway. And this is by Mount Rutson Studios, and the Little Abbey fingering tweed. So it's 85% BFL, Blueface Leicester, and 15% nylon, 438 yards and 100 grams. So it is lovely. It's super bright, very fun. I found a little pear button and sewed that on there. So that's the fingering that would coordinate, would have the same stitch pattern on it as this one, as the orange. So it has those little slip stitches. Here's the fingering weight version of the Bartlett sock. So it has those diagonal lines again, and this one is also in Mount Rudson Studios in their BFL, which is lovely, the tweed, and it is called Spiced Carrot, and that coordinates with this one. So they both have the diagonal lines on them. This is the Concorde fingering weight sock, and it's made with Little Bean Loves yarn. And she has the saffron colorway, and it's that really nice textured stitch pattern. It's got some little pearl-shaped beads sewn on that one. And it is the matching pair to this one. So those are the Concorde. And this is the Bosc sock in the fingering. And again, I used Little Bean Loves yarn in the Frozen colorway. And her yarn is 438 yards, and it's called Confetti Sock. So this tweed is multicolored, whereas the other ones, all the nups are pretty much black and gray. This one has the multicolored, I think you can see that up close there. So her two colorways. And again, I used the slip stitch modified Dutch heel on all the fingering weight versions and put a little Pear stitch marker on that one, and it coordinates with the gold. So there you have it. 10 patterns, 3 ebooks, tons of photography. All you sock knitters out there, if you want to go over and buy my little pattern collection, I would really appreciate it going into the holidays here. I am just tickled that it is finally done, that I had this brilliant idea to make an easy 8 pattern sock collection. Each sock pattern has 4 sizes: small, medium, large, and extra large. Sizes 8, 9, 10, 11 circumference of the leg, the foot, the cuff, and easily modifiable. So if you typically do a standard, stitch count cast on, you can make that work. 2 of the patterns have a 6 stitch repeat, and so you have to modify to have your cast on number be divisible by 6, which means going up 2 stitches for most people. So it's not too challenging. I am thinking about having a knit along starting January 1st and running through the end of February for any of the Pears of Socks patterns. I was thinking about giving away gift cards, so the prizes wouldn't be more patterns or that kind of thing, but would be literally money you could spend. Just a couple of gift cards getting people to cast on. You could knit any of the pairs of DK weight socks or fingering socks, or you could knit the hat or the cowl. And so I'm thinking that would be kind of a fun thing to do or start, but I would probably post date it so that if you started it before January 1st, it would be no problem. As a matter of fact, I think I would probably run it through the time through the end of February, so you could participate on Instagram and post your photos of finished, and you only have to knit 1 sock. That'd be a good entry for me. Sometimes you don't get that second sock knit in time. I need to thank all 42 of my testers. I had people knit multiple socks, the hat and the cowl. They rose to the challenge. They were kind when things went wrong. They were persnickety when they needed to be, like, this stitch count does not work. Corey, you need to look, it's still off by a couple of stitches. When I was juggling 42 testers because, 8 socks, 4 sizes. You got to have 32 testers just to have one in each size. And then some of the sizes, you need multiple testers just to check things. It was, they would send an email and I would be like, what sock am I looking at? What size are you making? What weight of yarn? It was a bigger challenge than it should have been. And at times I was rushing to get things done and off to the tech editor. And yeah, so a huge heartfelt thanks to each and every one of those testers for hanging in there with me during these crazy few months. They were awesome. It would not be a pattern collection without them. I couldn't have done it. I could not have knit every single size of every single sock by myself. And you can't check your own numbers anyway, because you read it over 3 times and it looks perfect, and then later someone says, it says wide instead of side. And you're like, how could I miss that? But I did. That's all I have for this week. Thank you so much for always watching. I know this is a busy time of year. It's hard sometimes to sit down and watch a podcast, and so many of you are still commenting, and those comments, they just warm my day, right? Like, I'll be in the midst of it and I'll be just on the computer for hours on end, and a comment will come in and I'll be like, oh, thank you. That's right. There are real people on the other end of this design business who are watching and supporting me and knitting my patterns. And yeah, it just really, sometimes it's what gets me through the day. I'm like, oh yeah, people are watching the podcast. Isn't that nice? So I've been getting some great comments on Vlogmas. It's a little crazy to really video parts of your day. My husband is not an extrovert. He is not into being a part of this. I said, I just need you to be supportive of the fact that I'm videoing all day long. He doesn't love it that I'm on my phone anyway. I'm like, sorry, honey. But it's another thing that's taking over our home. Yesterday, I posted our Christmas tree saga, and we have the saddest Christmas tree that we have ever had. Like, it could be more sparse, but the pine cones growing at the top are a real feat of nature. Like, they're the weirdest. You gotta go look at the close-up picture of these weird little stems that are just shooting at the top of this poor little tree. That's why no one took it off the lot, and it was the last one left. Anyway, keep it colorful, waddle on. Keep your fork. You'll never regret looking back. Don't complain with your mouth full. Look under the dog. Love you all. I hope you're laughing your way through December, because we gotta just keep our spirits up and laugh. I hope I made you smile today. Love you all. Come in for your hug in my big giant oversized fluffy Christmas sweater. Larry and Lulu say Merry Christmas.